The Keighley child sex abuse ring was a group of 12 men who committed serious sexual offences against two underage girls in the English town of Keighley and city of Bradford, West Yorkshire. In December 2015, they were found guilty of rape and other forms of sexual abuse by a unanimous jury verdict at Bradford Crown Court. They were sentenced in February 2016 to a total of 130 years in jail. The main victim, who had been targeted by 10 of the men, was aged between 13 and 14 at the time of the attacks between 2011 and 2012. The alleged ringleader of the gang was named as local drug dealer Ahmed Al-Arif Chowdhury, also spelled Chudrai, who is not among those found guilty in court and is believed to have fled abroad. Crimes: the main victim was groomed with gifts and apparent displays of affection before being coerced into abusive sexual relationships. She was raped in various locations in Keighley, including parks, churchyards and an underground car park. The rapists had designated part of the car park X's Corner with graffiti and added their own names. During one sustained rape, she was attacked by 5 men in succession. In an interview with police, she said that Chowdhury had employed her as a drugs courier and that when she tried to stop working for him, he called her a little white slag and a little white bastard. He then physically restrained her and raped her, according to her testimony. One of those found guilty, a 63-year-old taxi driver called Mohammed Akram, had sex with one of the victims in his taxi. Guilty men: those found guilty of rape were named as Sufyan Zirab, 22, his brother Bilal Zirab, 21, Yasser Kabir, 25, Hussein Sardar, 19, Nasser Khan, 22, Zakib Younis, 29, Israr Ali, 19, Faisal Khan, 27, Zain Ali, 20, and Tanquir Hussain, 23. An 11th defendant, Mohammed Akram, 63, was found guilty of sexual activity with a child. 4 other men were found not guilty of similar charges and 1 man will face a retrial. A 12th man, Khalid Mahmood, 34, had pleaded guilty to 5 counts of rape before the trial. Official reactions to case. After guilty verdicts: after the verdicts were returned, Judge Roger Thomas QC told the guilty men that they had treated the proceedings with contempt and arrogance. He said that in his 40 years of practice as a lawyer, he had never seen other defendants who'd been as insolent and disrespectful. He had formed, he said, the poorest of opinions about the defendants. Detective Chief Inspector Chris Walker of West Yorkshire Police said after the verdict that the investigation had been challenging, complex and sensitive. He paid tribute to the victims for their courage in testifying against their abusers and described child sexual exploitation as totally unacceptable and one of the most important challenges facing the police. After sentencing, Chris Hopkins, Conservative MP for Keighley, condemned what he called the sick model of organized groups of Asian men grooming young white girls and claimed that more women were still suffering abuse in the same way. In a statement issued by his office, he said the convictions were vindication of controversial comments he had made in Parliament in 2012, when he said that organized groups of Asian men were raping white girls. He claimed to have been criticized for these claims. Judge Roger Thomas QC described the men's behavior while on trial as contemptuous, disrespectful and arrogant. Some of them had treated their prosecution as a joke from the beginning. They had grinned in the police photographs taken when they were arrested, misbehaved in the dock during the trial, and laughed and waved to supporters in the public gallery as they were convicted. The judge said that they had treated the girl in a heartless and demeaning way, seeing her as simply an object for their own sexual gratification. The court was told that she now suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder and clinical depression. Some defendants had previous convictions for drug dealing, dangerous driving, assault, public disorder, stealing and handling stolen goods. Arif Chowdhury, The alleged ringleader of the gang is believed to have traveled to Bangladesh to escape prosecution following his arrest and release on bail. He had begun pimping the girl in Keighley when he was only 15 and was described in court as an evil and violent individual who had first employed the girl as a drugs courier before subjecting her to repeated rapes, beatings and racial abuse. Khalid Raja Mahmood was already serving a 6.5-year sentence for the rape of a 43-year-old woman, with a consecutive 1.5-year sentence for attempting the false imprisonment of a child. Nicknamed Creepy Khalid in Keighley, he had convictions for a total of 7 sexual offenses, including indecent assault and curb crawling. Yasser Kaber had told the girl in front of her grandmother that she could suck me off. In addition to the 20 years he received for raping her, he was sentenced for the rapes of 2 other girls, one aged between 6 and 7, the other between 7 and 9, which he had committed when he himself was aged between 13 and 15. Mark Burns-Williamson, West Yorkshire's Police and Crime Commissioner, described child sexual exploitation, CSE, and sexual abuse as abhorrent crimes, welcomed the sentences and commended the investigation by West Yorkshire Police, which was assisted by Bradford Council's safeguarding team. He also commended the courage of abuse survivors in giving evidence against their abusers and expressed the hope that the trial would further underline the commitment of the authorities to end CSE in West Yorkshire. Detective Chief Inspector Nicola Breyer, of the Homicide and Major Enquiry Team in West Yorkshire Police, expressed her satisfaction at the sentences and also commended the courage of the victims. She noted that CSE remained a priority for West Yorkshire Police, describing it as totally unacceptable and stressing the responsibility of all agencies, communities and individuals to identify the perpetrators and assist their prosecution, conviction and jailing. Sentences: Khalid Raja Mahmood, 34, of Keighley, received a 17-year extended sentence for 2 charges of rape and 3 charges of sexual activity with a child. Ta'akir Hussain, 23, of Keighley, 18 years for 2 counts of rape against the first victim and 1 rape against another teenage girl. Yasser Kaber, 25, of Keighley, 20 years for 3 counts of rape against the first victim and 4 charges of rape, 2 charges of sexual assault, 2 charges of assault by penetration and 4 charges of causing the child to engage in sexual activity against 2 young girls. Sufyan Ziarab, 23, of Keighley, 15 years for 2 counts of rape. Bilal Ziarab, 21, of Bradford, 12 years for 2 counts of rape. Israr Ali, 19, of Keighley, 3.5 years in a young offenders institution for 1 count of rape. Nasser Khan, 24, of Keighley, 13 years for 1 count of rape. Saqib Yoyunis, 29, of Keighley, 13 years for 1 count of rape. Hussein Sardar, 19, of Keighley, 6 years in a young offenders institution for 1 count of rape. Zain Ali, 20, of Keighley, 8 years in a young offenders institution for 1 count of rape. Faisal Khan, 27, of Keighley, 13 years for 1 count of rape. Mohammed Akram, 63, of Keighley, 5 years for 1 count of sexual activity with a child. See also list of sexual abuses perpetrated by groups. References